Today we're rebuilding the front diff in my big Jeep truck. Parts have come in, as I thought they would just after putting it back together. It's only been about 2 weeks since I actually put the front end back together with the broken diff. But anyway, that's beside the point. It did what it needed to do, so today we're getting four-wheel drive back. Replace the crown wheel and pinion, replace the CVs, put all new bearings, like wheel bearings, spindle bearings in the swivel hubs, and yeah, hopefully I won't have to look at this front end for a fair while, providing I keep the maintenance up to it and keep an eye on my oil levels. I shouldn't have any of these dramas again. Anyway, let's get into it. Right, we've got the diff out. As you can see, all the teeth are missing up in here, and it doesn't rotate. Right, pull this apart and see what's going on in there. This does have a Harrop elocker in it, as you can see right there. Means I've got to de-pin this little plug so I can get the wires out before I can pull all of this off. So these are a great little investment, deep pinning tools. They do lots of plugs. Remember how this comes apart. Need a little pick first, just to there's a little locking tab in here, which is very difficult to get at. I think I'm just going to pop it up. The rate these are going, I might cut them off and put a Deutsch plug on it. Aha! That piece out. Now we can see what we're doing down in here. Just like that. Kind of butchered that piece a little bit, but anyway. That'll be fine, it'll go back together. I can't imagine this grommet's going to be super fun to get back in either. Well, it mightn't be too bad actually. There it goes. Right. This has already been apart once, so the caps here are all marked, so it's easy enough. Whip these 4 bolts out, and then the crown wheel can come, and the locker will come straight out. Righto, we'll get the pinion pulled out of this. Got my pinion holding tool. So I can crack the big nut on the end of it. Get this apart and see what lovely shade of blue these bearings are. It's a nice custom tool. It doubles for a lot of things. Maybe 27. And I've got a 30. No, it's a 30. That wasn't too bad. Whoops, dropped my nut. That's going to take some persuading to get off there. Stick a puller on that and we'll pull this flange off. Ooh, maybe not. What we got in the press? Oh no, we're getting somewhere. Oh, this is an interesting development. I'll admit, one I was not prepared for. The bearing has welded itself to the pinion flange. Not the pinion fell out. That should not be a part of that. So surprisingly, that bearing actually kind of lived. As you can see, the pinion itself's completely ruined. But yeah, that bearing failed, and it's been hot, which is a lack of oil. That's what killed it. It ran out of oil. It's my fault. I didn't service it, but anyway. Yes, that's I have to work out how to get that off of there. Alright, got the whole thing apart. Ran into a couple of little dramas. The aftermarket pinion that I got actually takes a different sized nut. The pinion nut doesn't fit, and it's different sized splines. There is an early and a late 80 series front diff, and yeah, the nitro gear uses the later flange, so it takes a bigger ring. bigger spline and a bigger nut on it. Luckily, fella in town had a brand new one, so it'll go straight on. And the bearing kit I bought actually comes with the bigger nut, so that's going to be really good, and the seals to suit the bigger flange. So that was a 3-hour delay, but anyway, we'll keep going with it. These things happen. This is the joy of working on cars. Yeah, so this is my front diff in a million pieces. So it's now getting a 4.88 to 1 ratio put in it, which is what it had before. That compensates for the 37s, and nobody had stock in Australia. So I got this one out of the States. Took a bit longer than I expected. A few arguments with that particular company. Won't buy anything from them again, but anyway. And it's got a Harrop elocker in it, which these are a good thing. At the time I went with this because I worked for Opposite Lock, and these were their preferred supplier for diff locks. You know, any Opposite Lock store, they're going to try and sell you a Harrop elocker, and they're a good thing. Yeah, I no longer work for an Opposite Lock store, and as you'll see, my dual cab, as I'm building that, that's got TJ Pro lockers going in it. Because I work there, I get a good price on them. So nothing against the e-locker. If you're out shopping for lockers and you don't want to mount a compressor, the e-locker is a good option. The funny side of that is I'm actually going to turn around and mount a compressor in my Jeep because I want to pump my tyres back up. So it just makes sense to have a hard mounted compressor. But anyway, that's each to their own. Actually, while I have the e-locker out, I can show you how it actually operates. It's got brake clean running out of it, to give it a good thorough clean and make sure there's no loose metal in it. So yeah, the e-locker, this piece here rotates, that's your magnet. Power and earth on those two wires, it doesn't matter which way, and it turns this into a big electric magnet, which then grabs this piece here, that next ring in, it gets it, and as you start to drive, it actually rotates, which I can't do this by hand because it needs a fair bit of force. This piece rotates with the magnet and pushes these pins in. And these pins are actually what lock your diff. So yeah, the pins will push in and then they lock your diff in place. And people call it a downside. I really haven't even noticed it for what I'm doing, but I'm not rock crawling or anything like that. So once this ramp is right around here, as you travel forwards, and the pin's in, once you change direction, that pin, which is essentially going to be over here, then has to run back up this ramp and back down the ramp the other way and lock back in. So it does unlock and then relock as you go from forward to reverse, and then when you go forward again, it'll do it again. That's just how they operate. Like I said, I haven't noticed it, but I'm not rock crawling in it. If you're rock crawling, it might be a bit more of a hassle, but otherwise, that's actually how they operate. Good, solid, easy thing to wire and all that. You know, we'll press some bearings in and put this thing back together. Alright, new bearings pressed onto the pinion. Use the old one as a press tool. Worked pretty well. Put that in there. This on the outside. ratchet, run this in. Just using hand tool things is fucking stupid. That was the easiest crown wheel I've ever put on. This one just went straight on. Normally I soak them in hot water. Helps them expand just a little bit. I've had a couple of let's say a couple. I had a TJM front locker recently where I actually had to put the locker in the freezer to make it shrink fractionally. With this one, pretty much just went straight on. Wouldn't say it fell on, but I didn't have to heat it up. Some thread locker on all these bolts. Just last thing you want is them coming out. It will ruin your day, weekend. Because they'll never come out when you just drive them around. If they're going to come out, they're going to come out on the side of a shitty hill somewhere. Yeah, you're really putting it through its paces. That's when they'll fail. There'd be nothing worse than trying to recover a dead car from the side of a bloody mountain. Anyway, I'll get these torqued up, press some bearings on it, and ready to put it back together. That'll do it. There it is. Put this bloody connector back on. Put the little lock back in. Just like that. That's it. The only thing you have to do different if you're actually fitting a diff, which don't follow me for advice. You'll have to drill a hole here to put your actual wires through. Mine was already there because I was just changing my crown wheel that blew up. Through lack of servicing. Check your oil, kids. Learn how to maintain your four-wheel drive. It's way cheaper in the long run. But I do this every day, so then I ignore my own stuff. Not the best way to go about it, but it's just kind of what happens. Right. That's all together. New crown wheel and pinions in it. Lockers back in. All new bearings. I'll climb under this thing, clean the gasket surface off, fit a new gasket and put the diff back in. Alright. Diff's all back in there. Now the next part is to go through these Swivel Hubs. As you can see by the state of the grease in there. They're well overdue for a service. Remove my lovely brake caliper. You can also see that they're quite hard to move. They do that. It sort of springs back to centre. Pretty sure we're going to find some pretty pitted bearings when I pull all this apart. Oh, better get into it. This is probably going to make a bit of a mess. And this is also I doubt Toyota or anyone else is going to tell you to pull it apart this way, but this is how I do it when it wants to come apart. Ooh, maybe not. I knew it was going in there. It's going to fall, that's where it's going to fall. Keep the shim. Then this will just come off like that. That bearing's had water in it. It's a little bit notchy. I dare say that other bearing's had even more water in it. So I'll get that cleaned out. Alright. You can see it in there, so the little marks. That's where the bearing sits as you drive along. So that would have been straight ahead. And that one's, this one's much the same. See them in there, all the little discolorations. So that's where the bearings are actually sitting when you're driving straight ahead. And you can't even feel it. But that's what was making it spring back to centre, is when you turn it, it rolls the bearing out of those little notches. And when you let go of it, when it gets back near its notch, it just drops back in. So these, a new set of kingpin bearings, are not going to hurt this thing. Should actually make it drive a fair bit better. Oh. If you're going to be doing a lot of these things, get yourself a seal installation tool. That makes life so much better. Right, I've been doing these for a long time, and I've finally bought one of these, and I really wished I did it like 20 years ago. I'm just using one of these eBay Swivel Hub kits to go through this. Coil bearings, absolutely everything you need to do a set of swivel hubs in there, right down to the nuts, replacement nuts and lock washers, and it did come with a socket to do those wheel bearing nuts up. So it's a good kit. Work continued into the night until beer and the finest KFC turned up. So the camera went off and the bullshit came out. I'll finish the other side off tomorrow. Finishing touches back on this front end. Everything's back in it. New axle seals, new kingpin bearings, new wiper seals on the back, new wheel bearings, spindle, CV. So all that's been replaced. Now put my dirty Freewheel Hubs back on. So this hub I don't think has a lot of life left in it. So speaking of Freewheel Hubs, was watching quite a prominent four-wheel driving channel on YouTube that a lot of you probably watch as well. And they went to do a track over at Coffs. And on the way into said track, had a freewheeling hub fail on a solid axle swapped Hilux. And I'm not saying this is staged, but they had quite a convenient shot of the hub falling off as a complete unit. This is the same front axle. And he shore all these little bolts off, which I have no nuts on at the moment. But it doesn't come off because there's a big circlip here that holds the axle in to the freewheeling hub. Where that particular one fell off quite easily, which makes me wonder if they'd set it up. But he mustn't have had that circlip in there. So, just saying, not casting dispersions on their show, not saying it's fake, just thought it was quite interesting. His freewheeling hub falls off as a complete unit. Or it's actually, if they're assembled correctly, it's impossible to take them off by just undoing this row of little bolts. You have to pull the outer cap off, and you have to remove that circlip, because it retains the axle into the actual freewheeling hub. Anyway, yeah, my freewheeling hubs, this one's just about shot. I've been waiting for the day that it goes bang for the last 3 years, so. With everything else in the front end being new, it'll fail now. Now, if anyone has a nice set of old school worn hubs, the ones that are about that long, the big long ones, let me know. It's to fit the fine spline, like 47 series cruisers and 60 series. Yeah, who's got a set of them? Let me know. Righto, big Jeep's back together. As you can see, it's not behind me. It's now out there. Taking it for a quick run around our little test track. Make sure full drive's working like it should, which it did. So yeah, it's all ready. I'll drive it for about a week and then drop the oil out of the diff again, just put fresh oil in it. And it should be ready for next time we want to hit the tracks. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you learnt something. If not, hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, maintain your cars. Honestly, if it's leaking oil, check the oil. I should know better, but these things happen. You work on enough other people's cars, you don't want to touch your own. So yeah, yes, like I always said, the mechanic drives the worst car. But anyway, well, until next time.